if we democratize AI so that we get everyone to learn about AI, then people will come up with the best, smartest ideas for use cases that we haven't thought about.
How do you keep the human connection strong while using all of these new technology?
I think you need to find a balance between really creating that human space to meet, realizing and acknowledging that will take time.
What is the hard part about mixing a traditional truck manufacturer with these new digital changes?
It's looking like it's going to be electrical. It's looking like it's going to be autonomous, so not a person driving it. It's looking like they're all going to be connected with each other. And then we add some sort of generative AI or AI on top of that. It becomes extremely complex.
Welcome to the Digital Customer Experience Podcast by Kiosk. I'm your host, Daniel Paul. We look at how companies are making their customer experiences better in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by Kiosk, a leading SaaS company helping businesses create amazing customer interactions. Today, I'm excited to welcome Patrik Hedjung, AI Catalyst at Scania. Patrik works at the cross-section of technology, people, and innovation. And he's now leading AI projects at one of the world's biggest commercial vehicle manufacturers. Welcome, Patrik.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Before we talk about technology, I heard something super fun about you. In 2018, you and your wife were watching something called as Call Me By Your Name, and then decided to buy a place in Italy without speaking Italian or having it in your budget. What made you just go for this crazy adventure?
Yeah, now when we talk about it, it actually reminds me, maybe there's a parallel to what we're going to talk about today. Going for something without really, not necessarily having a plan, not knowing where it's going to end. But we just felt that we watched this movie, it was absolutely beautiful, the scenery was fantastic, and we just had this feeling that we have to get a place in Italy. and my wife is a little bit more action oriented than I am. So after a month or two, she asked me, "So are you actually serious about this Italy thing?" And yeah, why not? Let's do it. So we started researching, and one thing led to another, and about a year later, we were waiting for the keys to our house in Italy.
Wow. Has Patrik always been this guy? It's like, okay, I got an idea, I got to make it happen. Have you always been that guy?
I've always been the guy with a lot of ideas. Yes, but sometimes I also need the partner to make them happen. Yeah, I have tons of ideas, but a little too often they stay on the idea level. So it's good to team up with someone to make them happen.
Looks like you and your wife are a great team to buy a house in Italy. Now let's just pivot a little bit into something else that you did, which was spontaneous as well. You also changed your LinkedIn title to Manager AI Adoption in February 2024, months before it became official in December. And I call that making things happen. How did your colleagues react to that? And why did you actually put that even before it happened?
I would say the reason why I did it was that at that time I had already started doing the work of a manager AI adoption, but it was difficult to get the mandate and the resources and the platform to do that work from. So I decided, well, the hell with it. Let's just see how far this can take me. And so I decided, there's an expression, let's dress for the role that you want, not the one that you have. And so I decided I'll just, I changed the title. Bunch of people, of course, congratulated me, congratulated Scania for being so forward thinking, HR for being, up there with it. So I would say 99% of the feedback I got was very positive. Maybe not necessarily from from those in charge of the job architecture, the formal role descriptions,
Yeah.
and that. So yeah, it was a bit of a tense situation there for a little while. But I think I convinced them that LinkedIn is not a carbon copy of our HR system. It's a marketing channel, and to spread ideas and to connect, and yeah, and I think
Great.
they got that eventually,
Now
and it
let's
worked.
talk.
It
Of
worked.
course. And I also think the best part is like it is also a marketing for Scania itself, right?
Mhm.
So it brings in a lot of eyes and it brings a lot of more people thinking about, wow, Scania is doing that. So you've done them a favor and at the same time being at the forefront of doing something different as well. So congratulations. Now let's talk a little bit about how Scania, like what are they doing and how things are changing at Scania, right? So first I want to ask about you moved from HR to IT. How do you help Scania's employees feel good about working with AI?
It's a big question, and I think in a situation like this, it's good to realize that a big company like Scania comes from all different directions into
Mhm.
something like AI development. So we have on one end of the scale, we have those who have a PhD in actually Gen AI, and we have people who've been working with machine learning for many, many years. And then, of course, at the other end of the scale, we have people who still are to have their first conversation with the AI interface. And so somehow we need to cater to that whole spread, and people will have very different reasons for not wanting to get on board with that. And I think we just have to realize and acknowledge that they're all those reasons, and we need to address them in different ways. Some are based on fear, worry, some are on lack of knowledge, some are just tired that things aren't going quick enough.
I have a follow up question because this is the case with not just Scania, it's the case with so many companies and so many big organizations or small organizations these days. Like there's a bunch of people that wants to try. There's a bunch of people that are skeptical. There's a bunch of people that are against it. So let's talk about the people that are skeptical or against it. If you were the person that's to motivate them and get them into this AI wheel to implement in their work, how would you start this whole process?
Well, first of all, I think it's also good and important to realize that skepticism would have different reasons. I mean, we a big engineering heavy company with a lot of research. We have a lot of people who sit on sensitive data, and they
Mhm.
have been very trained to be cautious about what they do with their information. And so now AI comes in as this black box magic wand, and people, rightly so, are worried about what happens to their data if they put that into an AI model. So I mean that's one fear, but that's in one way easier to address because
Mhm.
we can have an answer to that. And we have our standard operating procedures, and we have our ways of working that mitigates that. But then people might also be worried about, okay, what is this going to do to my job?
Yeah.
And that, of course, is more difficult to answer because no one really knows. Uh, and sometimes it can be as easy as saying that we don't actually know what this is going to do to our jobs moving forward. We're pretty sure it's going to affect all of us,
Yeah.
at least white collar workers to begin with.
Yeah.
And so we need to do this together. The the idea is not to get rid of a bunch of people with this, at least not from our perspective. We would much rather use the people we have because we believe in them and produce more and better rather than produce what we already do with fewer number of people. So it's not
Mhm.
that we want to get rid of people, but We want to do work with continuous improvement. We want to develop our offerings to our customers, and one way we can do that in a better way is to use AI. And we're gonna do that in very different ways moving forward, but we don't know how yet.
AI is all about efficiency and all about, as you said, you don't want to cut down on the number of people, but increase the amount of output or efficiency. Can you tell us about a time when AI really helped improve things at Scania?
Well, I think again, it's we have a long tradition of AI, and I think it's important to remember that. And now when we talk about AI, it's usually generative AI we talk about, but we also have a big field of machine learning, and we have products that are related to AI. So we have self-driving vehicles, and so the field is big, obviously. But and when it comes to Gen AI, that's a relatively new area, and we're of course we're developing all kinds of use cases for generative AI. Something that's targeting most of us is on a personal productivity level, doing what we already do, but doing it quicker. I mean, we have it's almost it's like it's so many, it's almost difficult to name one. But we all, I mean, I think, we don't have any unique, at least that I'm aware of, on a personal productivity level use cases to anyone else. It's meeting summaries, it's writing emails, it's analyzing data in Excel sheets, all those
Yeah,
things. But I think the way we approach that is, yes, we want to increase the personal productivity. That's one reason why we do that. But the other reason is to raise the general awareness about AI, general AI literacy level. Because if we democratize AI so that we get everyone to learn about AI, then people will come up with the best, smartest ideas for use cases that we haven't thought about, and
mm,
that will never come from IT. So we
yeah,
have to get AI out in the business as far out as possible to get those entrepreneurs, those idea generators to come up with all the brilliant use cases. So that's sort of our approach. We don't pilot specific groups. We try to push it out to as many as possible, because we don't know where the best ideas will come up. But while we do that, of course, we move along with the usual the usual suspects,
yeah.
meeting transcripts or whatever.
So now that we're on the subject of AI, like AI means you're also bringing in new tools into such a large company. So, which is not easy. Like, there's like, if it's a small company, it's easy to integrate and implement these new tools. What's been the biggest challenge for you?
I think the scale is, of course, a challenge in itself. And
Hmm.
like I mentioned before, the spread between those who are very advanced to those who still haven't tried it, that's certainly a big challenge. And
Yeah,
so far, maybe we've a bit too much addressed them all in the same way. But next step will definitely be to segment those groups and find training. But it's all, I mean, if you want to train people on AI, what do you train them on? Because,
mm,
and especially in a large organization, there is a lead time from once you get the idea to where you actually start training. And by
mm,
that time, the product that you want to train them on, let's say ChatGPT or whatever it is, will have changed, because
yeah,
the damn thing changes every day. So
yeah,
it's definitely a challenge to, in a big organization, training and developing competences and information communication about something that is not static, that moves so quickly.
yeah. And
Uh,
is it also the case, like, for example, there are some departments inside of the company that doesn't use AI as the other? Does this affect the overall outcome of you or someone trying to implement AI into the whole company?
I would say at this point in time, my gut feeling is that it's more related to individuals.
Mm.
And if you have a department where a person with a mandate and a platform has been early in sort of getting it, sort of sensing the potential with AI, then of course that person has a big potential to change the whole department.
Yeah.
While if a different department doesn't have that person or that management team, or then they're definitely much slower. And I would say it doesn't correlate with um, potential. Certainly not with potential.
Mhm.
It doesn't correlate with education level, or maybe, I mean, very tech heavy areas of the business, I think would be more inclined to have enough number of those people. But in a large organization, it's also a problem if all the non-tech departments rely on IT to
Mhm.
drive this.
Yeah.
Um, because, and I think we see that across the board in a lot of companies, that's an obstacle right now, that people rely on IT too much. Because I believe strongly, although it's weird to say that since I just moved to IT, but I believe that IT doesn't hold the key to the adoption question. Because they can solve the technical aspects, but not the human aspects.
Let's talk about AI adoption for a second, because you're the person, the go-to person for AI adoption. If let's assume a situation, you are being asked to consult the world's biggest company that wants to transform and adopt AI. What would be a step-by-step guide for you to tell them, here's where you start, and these are the steps that you need to get to Z, from A to Z? What would be the approach? What would be the process looking like for someone that's starting new?
I would say you got to start with looking at the organization you have, because it's way too easy. And I've been approached by many management consultancy firms who claim to have the solution, and it's very nice PowerPoints, high level, just implement this, we'll be with you all the way. But it doesn't take into consideration the culture, the organization, the people, the processes that exist in that company today. And if you do this irregardless of that, I think it's set up to fail. So I think you need to start by assessing your own organization, especially when it comes to more intangible things like culture and traditions. And if you can leverage those and speak in a way that people recognize, and you get the sort of early adopters, but also the people on board that may not be clear in the organizational chart, but to anyone working in that company, it's obvious who those people are. If you can, involve them and get them on board, the management PowerPoints will always go, start at the top. Executive buy-in is crucial, and yes, it's good to have executive buy-in, but if you don't have that, what are you going to do? Are you going to wait
Mm.
until you have that? No, you have to find other ways to do it as well. So really start from what your organization is at and how it works, and then find a way. That
All
would
right.
be my most important tip.
All right, cool. Let's talk about the human connection, because we're now getting into the part where, in order for you to adapt or adopt to AI, you said that you need to first assess where your company is at. So, how do you keep the human connection strong while using all of these new technology?
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, it's a. I would say AI is an enabler to do that, but I think it's also important that you don't go go too far. And I mean, still, even some of the really good prompts and bots will create messages that still, for someone who's been using it a bit, is it's obvious that it's not a human behind it.
Yep.
Um, and so I think you need to find a balance between really creating that human space to meet, realizing and acknowledging that that will take time. Of course, it's a classic case of me being having been involved with these questions for quite some time now and very intensely. Have to remember that someone who's just getting on board don't have all that, and they're just starting to experiment, and absolutely key, I think. But at the same time, also using the possibilities that generative AI gives in tailoring messages and finding ways to make it relevant, maybe not on an individual level, but at least on a sort of a cohort group function role level. Because I mean, when we're talking about general purpose technology, it it it's a blessing and a curse because it
Mhm.
has so many use cases, but at the same time it's very difficult to give that one use case that fits everyone because
Yeah.
they're all going to be different.
Now, we touched a little bit on the human connection. Let's get into the manufacturing. Like, what is the hard part about mixing a traditional truck manufacturing with these new digital changes? What do you and Scania finds difficult with mixing these two?
Well, I would say AI just adds yet another layer on top of a transition that we're already in as a truck manufacturer. I mean, it would be difficult if the only change was AI. But we're also moving from a history of diesel powered, human driven trucks that are pretty, standalone products, and we're moving into a future that is, well, it's looking like it's going to be electrical, right?
Hmm.
It's looking like it's going to be autonomous, so not a person driving it. It's looking like they're all going to be connected with each other, um, and then we add some sort of generative AI or AI on top of that. It becomes extremely complex.
Yeah,
And I think we're also coming from a tradition where we might not be the first company with a new product, but we're the best company. So we're very much a premium experience, not necessarily first to market,
yeah,
but definitely premium experience. And we are that because we have worked with continuous improvement and small iterations and developing our products and services that way. And now suddenly we're faced with a situation where we have to move much
yeah.
quicker than we have before. So, yeah.
As a person who's leading AI adoption and who's also excited and interested in learning a lot about AI, what new AI developments get you excited about the future?
I said that I don't, at least right now, believe in the hyper personalization or individualization because it's not right there yet. But I definitely think there's so much potential in that. And I do believe that that's super exciting. That I, as a learner, I, as an employee, I, as a chef, I, as a photographer, whatever role I put myself in, will be able to get tailored messages, help, support, given my exact problem or situation. Of course, there's a bunch of risks in that as well, but I think to me that's extremely exciting, and also the potential of learning about stuff that we didn't even know existed, or be able to find connections that we barely even knew to ask for.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you combine the huge amount of data with the compute that would be enable, I mean, not one person could have ever been able to keep all that in mind to see the connections, but an AI will.
So we're coming to the end of the podcast. There's just one question that I want to ask you. Looking ahead, how do you think AI will change the way leaders work in the next few years?
I think there's, I mean, when we talk about leadership, we often talk about transactional and transformative leadership. Transactional being the sort of the day-to-day tasks that I have to do as a leader, sort of more maybe related to management.
Mm.
A lot of it is administrative, and the sooner we can automate or augment those things, the better. And I know leaders spend so much time doing not really value adding
Yeah.
things, and we definitely need to get rid of those, so that manager leaders can spend time on the truly human and the truly value creating interactions. But and I mean that's sort of the leadership that we try to market to potential leaders, but reality is that it doesn't really look like that, or for very few leaders it looks like that. So maybe one day with AI we can actually fulfill that promise to potential leaders, that it is about it is about human potential, it is about real connections, and the rest of that boring stuff we dealt with.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing this wonderful insights about Scania, how it's using its AI and digital tools to create better experience for its customer. So, and also the story that you shared about Italy and updating your LinkedIn status way ahead tells that you are some person who's taking bold steps, whether it's buying a house in Italy or trying new technology, and can lead to amazing results. So, thank you for being a part of this podcast, and it was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, and grazie mille, as I say nowadays that I picked up some Italian.
Grazie mille. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning into another episode of Digital Customer Experience Podcast. Remember to subscribe for more interesting conversations about how companies are changing in the digital age. Until next time, stay curious and keep creating.